Oh, oh, yeah. Really? Really? Okay. Let's do this thing. Denver Broncos lose 22-17, the final score, in a heartbreaker against the Houston Texans. It is Denver Sports Postgame Live. I am your host, Cecil Lammey, here to talk about it. Here to talk about what went wrong and what went right and why the Broncos just didn't give themselves enough time, why things fall short at the end. And again, the Broncos win streak is over. The Houston Texans beat the Denver Broncos, the first of their third game road trip, and it ends with an L. Last second play, throwing it up for Lucas Kroll, who didn't know what the play was, and it's intercepted for Russell Wilson in a game where you needed to see Russell Wilson do more. He didn't do more. The passing game, you needed the passing game to do more. They didn't do more. Russell Wilson tossing those 3 interceptions. The Broncos digging themselves in a hole when it was 13-3 at halftime, and they never quite recovered from that. So lots to get to on today's program. Welcome in Broncos country. It is time to discuss what went wrong with this team. They didn't play good football, not even close, and they still had a chance to win at the end. I went into this game going, you know, we're not going to concede the games to the Texans or the Lions. We meaning the media, not the Broncos, but like we shouldn't be conceding those games. It's like, it's okay if they lose. It's okay. It's not okay if they lose. And this one stings because it's too close. It's too tight. You look at what's going on with the Steelers, anyone else that was in the hunt in this playoff situation with the Denver Broncos. Like, yeah, you don't really pay attention to what they're doing now. You go out and win the games that you can win. The Denver Broncos do not do that. So the easy thing, the low-hanging fruit thing would be to say, you know, this is on Russell Wilson. This is his fault. I mean, they essentially didn't do themselves any favor early on, and that's what cost them. Like, this is a team loss. It's a team loss because of the defensive mistakes. Beginning with the Alex Singleton play, which I know a lot of people on Twitter lost their mind when I was like, Alex Singleton just cost his team. CJ Stroud headbutted him. CJ Stroud's a flipping quarterback. Okay. I don't care if you're Alex Singleton, who in the NFL terms, you know, nice solid player, but not a borderline superstar the way CJ Stroud is. You're going to go up there, you're going to jaw like that, you're going to headbutt a quarterback, you're going to get the flag. Quarterback's not going to get the flag. Like, get over it. Everyone coming in, oh, that's the refs. We're up against the refs. You're led by Sean Payton. Of course, you're going to be up against the refs. What is this new? We just wake up. It's flipping December, right? And got all these fans complaining about the officials. You have Sean Payton as your coach. The officials don't like you. The NFL doesn't like Sean Payton. Are we over this? Are we enough with this? Can we stop talking about it? Yeah, it's you against the refs every week. Welcome to life with Sean Payton. Yeah, pass interference doesn't matter. Derek Stingley got one on Marvin Mims. It doesn't matter. Ask Saints fans about how pass interference doesn't exist when Sean Payton is your head coach. So, yeah, we can either cry and whine and complain and moan about, oh, it's the refs, they're out to get us. Or you can just know they're out to get you and you got to go play better. This loss is directly on all of the Broncos. It's on special teams. It's on the punting unit. It's on a little bit of Marvin Mims, right, as a returner. You know, you needed to break some big ones. You didn't do that. I guess it's not on Will Lutz, I guess. But, like, defensively, it's on the defense. Outside of what? PJ Locke? You saw Pat Surtain get torched. Nico Collins had almost 200 yards receiving. I know Surtain was banged up. Don't at me, bro. I understand that. But this was a complete loss. To say this is all on Russell Wilson, that's a hot take and that's stupid. 2 rules in life. Don't be dumb. Don't be in a cult. And to say this is on Russell Wilson, the last interception he's thrown up trying to make a play. Kroll doesn't know what he's doing at the beginning of that play. You saw it, and they didn't have any timeouts, but that was one of those situations where you wish you could have had a timeout because the kid's up there at the line doing this, and then the ball snapped and he kind of runs and it's chaos. Sutton should have been the target on that play. Instead, it was Kroll. I'll take some issue on the way that Kroll played that pass. Like he could have positioned his body better and maybe went forward and attacked the football a little bit more. He did a little bit, but we're talking about an inexperienced player that you're hoping to win the game. This isn't Rod Smith against Darryl Green years ago, right? You're hoping Lucas Kroll can come down with that. He's not going to come down with that, most likely. I mean, that play should have been for Sutton. So to pin it on Russell Wilson, that's lazy. It's low-hanging fruit. To ignore how Alex Singleton hurt this team, that's lazy. It ignores the truth. The truth of the matter is complete team loss for the Denver Broncos, and it's sad because it was there to win. You didn't play a good game, and you almost won. Think about that. So I'm going to bring up what went wrong with this team. I'm not just going to blame the officials. Again, lazy, low-hanging fruit, won't do it. There are calls that could have gone either way, and the refs aren't great, and the refs don't like Sean Payton. The league doesn't like Sean Payton. Can we get over that, please? So this isn't going to be everything's fine, everything's great. It's not. You lost a game, you should have won, and you didn't play great football. I think that's a good sign, maybe even a great sign for the Denver Broncos. Is you didn't play real good football today. You cost yourself. You shot yourself in the foot. You kept going, 3 and out. Did you even convert a third down? I'll look at the numbers, but I mean, for most of the time and into the fourth quarter, they were 0-8 on third downs. They had a penalty on the Samaje Perine play late in that game, which allowed them to keep moving the chains. But this Broncos team, like, these games are too close. Things are too tight, and you were 0-11 on third down. Fourth down, you were 3 for 3, but you were 0 for 11 on third down for the Denver Broncos. That'll cost you, right? That'll cost you. That's all that you really need to look at is what was your turnovers like? What was your third down efficiency like? Your turnovers were bad, and your third down efficiency was bad. So, who's to blame? Everybody's to blame. It's a team loss. I really don't feel like hanging this on one person, saying that this is one person's responsibility. There was a lot of blame to go around. A lot of blame as to what happened with this Broncos team. And you start out throwing. Had Courtland Sutton come down with one of those first 2 passes, the very opening of this game, they come out firing, attacking through the air, which is how you attack Houston. It just made sense to go into this game thinking this is where the passing game has to do more. And the passing game didn't do more. And it's not necessarily Russell Wilson's. It's not all his fault, because this is a game where they wanted to throw more and they really didn't get a chance to do that, even though they kind of tried to do that. They kept running, which isn't a bad thing. And Wilson having 10 rushing attempts himself, 26 passing attempts, 1 touchdown, 3 INTs, but only 186 yards. But I look at the drops, the miscues between him and Courtland Sutton earlier, that, the miss Jerry Jeudy's wide open, Wilson doesn't see him, those sorts of things. Like, that's holding this team back. And that's why there were, just 15 completions out of 26 attempts, 1 touchdown, and 3 INTs, 4-1 Russell Wilson. So everyone's going to want to blame Wilson. Some people might say something about Singleton. Maybe. I still honestly can't believe there's that much pushback about the refs. Again, only about 4% of our audience is on Twitter. So anytime, including myself, any advice that I give is always for myself first. Anytime someone says something about Twitter, oh my God, Twitter's awful. Yeah, only about 4% of your audience uses it. So how about we don't talk about that? But just the fan reaction on social networking was, this is on Russell Wilson. No, it's on a lot of people. Sutton making those plays early. If Sutton would come through on those plays early, you'd think they'd have a better kind of start. You saw how they wanted to jumpstart things. They came out throwing, which is what you should do against Houston. And those first 2 plays, had at least one of those been different and been a chain mover to Courtland Sutton, you might have seen something different from the Denver Broncos as this game went on. Instead, they go in a shell. They don't do anything. Second half comes on. They come out. They don't do anything. They get things going late, and they work through their mistakes. But the problem is they dug themselves too much of a hole. That was the problem for the Denver Broncos. It's not that Wilson and 3 picks didn't help. I'm never going to, back off of that statement, but we also know that every interception has a story. And when you're getting passes tipped, when you're trying to throw it up to Lucas Kroll, who, I don't mind, but in a game-winning situation, just throw it up for Sutton. Throw it up for Sutton. Let the big man go make a play or get a pass interference, something. I thought maybe they might try to sneak a little Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy showing some savvy in this game, something that we don't normally see from Jerry Jeudy, but you did see that today. You just wanted to see a little bit more, but this team could never get on track. So the Texans, I'm not going to take anything away from the Texans. They played a hell of a game. They've got a hell of a quarterback. Their plan was sound against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos kept keeping the Texans in it. Again, Houston did their thing. Houston won this game. I'm not saying the Broncos lost this game, but the Broncos did not do themselves any sort of favors along the way. Constant miscues, constant moving of the chains. There were way too many flags, way too many penalties, just kind of a slower type of game in that manner, and the type of game that makes you really frustrated. It makes you really pissed off because you had it. You could have had it. It was right there for you to have it, and you let it slip away. So again, that's a positive. Like, okay, you didn't play your best football. It came right down to the wire, last second throw. Exactly, not necessarily what you want, but it's good to show that fight. And I had thought of something that was it Russell Wilson last week, talking about having this team having grit. Like, they've got grit. And you saw that grit today, even with a Mike McGlinchey. There's a few players that did not have really good days at all. Mike McGlinchey is one because Will Anderson ate his lunch all day. Later in the game, with the grit, McGlinchey showed to help as much as he could keep a guy, talented number 3 overall pick, Will Anderson, at bay. Another player that didn't have a good day, Pat Surtain. Nico Collins, I think he finished with 191. Is that right? 191 yards receiving for Nico Collins, 9 catches, 12 targets. And yes, Surtain was banged up in this one. We're not yet sure of the extent of the injury. We know that he wasn't 100%. Nico Collins, who I've compared to their version of Cortland Sutton, coming through with a fantastic day there as well. But Pat Surtain could have had a better day, and he just didn't. He did not, and the Broncos giving up big play after big play. It's what Houston does. Houston is the big play specialist, and they lost. They were without Dalton Schultz, although Brevin Jordan did a fine job. They were without Dalton Schultz. Noah Brown did play. He was questionable entering this game. And then Tank Dell gets banged up early in this contest. They're, jitterbug, water bug type of rookie receiver that's very explosive himself. But you still had multiple weapons. Even John Mechie going through this whole week of preparation on the air. I hardly ever brought up John Mechie. John Mechie's a hell of a player. He's like their 5th receiver, though. But they actually had to get down to him because of the injuries, because of the fact that Tank Dell gets banged up. Either way, explosive plays, the lack of being able to, close, the interceptions, the poor tackling, like there were multiple reasons, special teams gaffes, multiple reasons why the Broncos dropped this game. It's not the end of the world. But again, it does stink when you're looking at the playoff standings and you're still an in the hunt team. Your chances, and everyone went through these statistics during the week, had you won against Houston, you're facing like a 65% chance of making the postseason. Now losing to the Texans, you're down to about 20%, 25%, whatever the number is. But it's a big hit compared to where you had fought and climbed to. And as much as I said 12-5 was a possibility, because it still was, you have to admit, and I'm somewhere Mike Evans probably trolling me right now, but Mike Evans like, you can't say they're going to win them all. It's like, well, I'm not going to say they're not. Every team that they face from here on out are teams that the Broncos can beat. There's only maybe a couple, 3 teams that they couldn't really hang with: Baltimore, Philadelphia, and much to my chagrin, the Dallas Cowboys. Like, those are about the only 3 teams this team can't hang with. They can hang with everybody else. So yeah, they let this one get away. And that's my kind of summary on this whole thing. It's like, again, the Texans won, but the Broncos gave this one away. Bottom line, the Broncos gave it away. And that's disgusting because in this league, you don't get many chances. You don't get many opportunities to make it right, to get that W, and your playoff chances are looking real good had you won. They're not looking real good now. It's not over. Nothing is over. It's not over. It's not disaster. I've said it before on the air. It bears repeating on this show. If the Broncos don't make the postseason, I'm not going to lose my mind. I'm going to be really disappointed, though, because what we've seen in the win streak is like, no, there is a talent. Even in this game, this hard-fought game kind of in a way reminds me of the Chiefs loss, the Thursday night game, although, different game script, different game flow, but it's like, okay, you see how it can work. You see that they didn't play perfectly and they still had a chance to win right at the very end. The ball is in their hands. The ball is in Russell Wilson's hands to win the game, and they didn't. So why? It's a team effort. And had Wilson given this game away, I want to be very clear about this because I am not a Wilson defender. I'm not a blind homer about the Broncos. I don't want to seek the truth and speak the truth. But had Wilson given this game away, I'd be like, man, Russell Wilson sucks. They can't do it with him. That's not the case, though. Russell Wilson didn't have a great day. He threw those 3 interceptions, costly to be sure, including the final one. But as we went through the course of this game, you could see how the entire team was kind of letting themselves down. Not all the time and not everyone. PJ Locke keeping the Broncos in it. And I thought the announcing crew, Charles Davis, who's awesome, by the way, and an awesome dude in person, but like when he's talking about when Kareem Jackson comes back, I don't know if he'll be he'll be the starter. Why? PJ Locke's better. That's it. Sorry, Kareem. We all love you. PJ Locke's way better. So PJ Locke playing outstanding football. I wish Justin Simmons would have been able to get one of those tipped passes from CJ Stroud. Didn't get to see that. There was one maybe Justin could have gotten his hands on that was tipped, but he didn't. And that was frustrating, but it needed one of those type of plays. This is one of those games, and I felt it would be tight. I had 27-24 Broncos, but I felt it would be tight, and it would come down to who has the ball last or like one big play. Well, who had the ball last was the Denver Broncos, and the one big play was another interception thrown by Russell Wilson. So again, it's easy to say this is Russ's fault and they can't win when they go with the passing play scheme, when their play design, when their game plan is pass, 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 they can't win with Russell. I believe that's foolish. Again, I haven't watched the coach's tape, obviously, because I'm on air right after the game. But when I watch the coach's tape again, I'll get a better feel. I felt that their plan was sound. Their execution was not. The plan for the Broncos this week was sound. It was enough to win. Obviously, it came down to the last play. But their execution of said game plan wasn't good enough, yes, even on Wilson's part. And I'm not just talking about the interceptions. The missed play to Jerry Jeudy where Jerry Judy's wide open on a crosser. Like, you set those things up to take advantage of those type of plays, and Russell Wilson didn't do that. But this is more than just it's all his fault. So please, if anyone's saying that, I'm not going to really look at the chat room until the end. So chat room in the 300 plus comments, thank you for chiming on board. But if anyone's saying that, you got to stop. You got to stop. This isn't Russell Wilson sucks and he can't play and let's go Broncos. This is Russell Wilson had a really bad day. The game plan was sound and Wilson's play certainly didn't help, but this entire team let this entire team down. Whatever we're talking about with the turnovers on this team, the lack of third down conversion, certainly for this team, it was not good. The refs, again, are always going to be against Denver, whatever. Like, you see in this situation how there wasn't just a lot of help. Wasn't a lot of help out there. You'll see Javonte Williams, 3.5 a carry. That's about right. Samaje Perine back to only 1 carry. Couple of catches, like, could have done that differently. Jaleel McLaughlin, 4 for 15. It's okay. 2 catches, 6 yards. But again, almost 100% now when he was on the field, he got the ball. That's a complete tell. It's a total tell. Maybe after the Perine, not really a fumble thing. They felt a little bit nervous about putting the veteran out there. I wouldn't have, but maybe that's what happened. I'm not sure. But I look at this Broncos team and I go, this is just an overall disgusting performance on all parts. Wilson doesn't help, but he wasn't the only one that had problems today against the Houston Texans. Houston Texans are a really good team, really challenging team. And if you want to know something that really grinds my gears, it's when people say no one really knows the Texans. Well, you don't know the Texans if you're not a football fan, you don't play fantasy football, or you basically don't pay attention. You should have known that they had two backs that could hurt you. You should have known that Brevin Jordan, that backup tight end, can hurt you because he did today. No Dalton Schultz, no problem for that team. You should have known CJ Stroud is the truth. CJ Stroud is the absolute truth. And that young man out there playing banged up as well, put it to the Denver Broncos, took advantage of the Denver Broncos, not on every play, but certainly enough plays to make his team, put his team over the top, I should say. So Denver Sports Postgame Live, talking about this Broncos team. Chat room, I'm going to get to in just a little bit, but Wilson, 26 passing attempts, 30 rushing attempts. So even in a game where they're down by 13 at one point and then 13-3 at half, but you're down by 13, you kept running the ball. Good. Russell Wilson with the 10 carries. Good. I guess it'd been better if you'd win because you definitely don't want to maintain this sort of level of the number of carries for Russell Wilson as the season goes on. Father Time is undefeated. Wilson, that stuff will catch up to him. So you want to kind of limit that. Can someone else besides Javonte help in the backfield? Can they go get somebody? Like, can somebody else do something? Because it seemed like they were going to trust in what they saw. So that's 21 carries, by the way, the last 2 weeks for Russell Wilson. 21 carries. You don't want that from a veteran quarterback. You don't want that at all. Excuse me, but that's what they're doing because it's not working with anyone else. It's not working with any of the other running backs. P. Ryan doesn't get carries now. McLaughlin loses his feet too soon. I guess the Marvin Mims end around thing worked once this time, but I still don't like that play. You don't have anyone to help you in the most important part of your game, which is running the football, because running the football is going to set things up for Russell Wilson. And the Texans weren't really respecting Russell Wilson as a runner. He made them pay with those 10 carries for 44 yards. And then, of course, that rushing touchdown also showing his toughness. Listen, you may hate Russell Wilson. You may not like Russell Wilson. You may want the Broncos to move on from Russell Wilson. But all of us, to a man and a woman, would say Russell Wilson is tough. You cannot question his toughness whatsoever. You cannot question his heart and his willingness to win in this game. You definitely see it. It's infectious for his teammates. His teammates love that, and they see it. They see how much this guy wants to win. Look at after the game. Look at after when he throws that third pick and he goes back to the sidelines. He's pissed off. I like that. I don't want a quarterback that's smiling or like, oh, get him next time. There's not a next time. In the National Football League, there's not a next time. There's now, and you better win now. And maybe if you're lucky, you get a next time in the postseason. But now your postseason chances have really took it in the shorts if you're the Broncos now. I still believe they can go to the postseason, but the more losses you have, the more it just compounds and the more it piles up for you as a team because you're on a 3-game road trip. You got one down, you got 2 more to go. You better win in these contests, and you don't have the luxury of just, yeah, it's next time. Yeah, we'll do it again later. But there's nobody outside of Courtland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy did a little bit today, but Courtland Sutton, Javonte does what he can. It's not enough, but he does what he can. Russell Wilson out there with a ton of heart. You basically have like a 3-person offense. Once in a while, P. Ryan will do something of note, but basically you have a 3-person offense. Once in a while, Jerry Jeudy may do something. He did a little something today, and he showed some savvy today, getting out of bounds, trying to stretch for first down, all those sorts of things. So you like seeing that from Jeudy, but man alive, you need more than that. That Kroll play, I'll say this. I'm not the biggest Greg Dulcich fan. I do love his hair. He has great hair. And I do appreciate the fact he worked on his lower body in the offseason, except his lower body still betraying him. But take Lucas Kroll out of that play, put in Greg Dulcich. I guarantee Dulcich makes that play. And I'm not even a Dulcich fanboy. Like, Dulcich makes that play. Lucas Kroll is just an inexperienced player that is put in a really tough position. He could have played the ball better. He could have attacked it more. He could have come back to the football and had better my ball mentality. He didn't do that. But it's Lucas Kroll. He is an incredibly inexperienced player. If that's Greg Dulcich, he makes that play. But this is the problem for the Broncos. They don't have enough talent. They've got talent, and that was frustrating earlier this season when this team was losing, and I was getting ulcers on this show and almost, turning the camera off, or at least putting something like this on so that I didn't throw up on camera. When that stuff was happening, the reason why was because I know this team is talented and they're playing like garbage. They played like garbage partly today, but they almost won. So it's coming around, but you are not built to play catch-up football, and you're not built to come back against yourself. The Broncos' biggest enemy today was themselves. There is no doubt. There is no question. The Texans are fine. The Texans have a young potential superstar quarterback. This is all fine. But the Broncos' worst enemy today was themselves, because across the board, offense, defense, and special teams, I just wrote about it last week. Man, it's nice seeing three faces of football. We didn't get to see three phases of football this week because, well, all three phases suffered and all three phases struggled. So I thought the plan was sound. The execution was poor. And then at the end, you're putting yourself in a position where you just can't do that. The defensive adjustments were good early on. They were not. Nico Collins still got his. We'll have to find out about Pat Surtain. Like, is he limited in practice next week? Does he get Wednesday off? These are some things we'll have to see. How banged up was he? Was he like an 80% Surtain? Was he a 65% Surtain? Was he 95% Surtain? We're going to have to wait and find out about that. All I know is Nico Collins is pretty good. He's their version of Courtland Sutton, and he's faster than Sutton. And Surtain is really good, and sometimes you just have those bad days. Champ Bailey, as much as we all love him, Terrell Owens got after him. Chad Johnson got after him. Like, there were some times in some games where Champ would just get got. And that might be the case with Pat Surtain right now. He might have just gotten got by a guy in Nico Collins that is really good. So please don't grind my gears and say, I had no idea about these Texans. Pay attention or play fantasy football, and you would have known all of these Texans names because they're all damn good. And the Broncos just lost to a really good team. Not a Super Bowl contender, but a really, a playoff contending team. This had the feel of a playoff game. It certainly was intense. I was on the edge of my seat right until I clicked go live for this game. I mean, that's the way we all were. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what at least you ask for. They weren't embarrassed. They weren't humiliated. They played embarrassing. There were parts of the game that were humiliating. The Alex Singleton thing, again, I'm not going to cry and defend Singleton and be like, the refs and CJ Stroud headbutted him first. No, Singleton, that was dumb. That was dumb. Like, you don't make dumb plays. You hurt your team. You hurt your team early on because the play was whistle dead, yet you wanted to get into it with this quarterback. Quarterbacks are protected. You got to know that, unless you're Russell Wilson, because Wilson taking some shots that they didn't flag. They did throw one on a play, but quarterbacks are protected. Singleton was a bad play. That was a bad play. It was a bad decision, and he got baited by a young player that's very brash and, very bold. And Singleton took issue with it, and it cost his team. This team isn't good enough to overcome those type of penalties. This team isn't good enough to overcome those type of mistakes where they are their own worst enemy. The Broncos don't have to play perfect football to win. I've said it on the air. They haven't even played their best football. They haven't played their best football by close. They were about 75% Broncos right now. If I were to guess, they're about 75% capacity of what they could be. And I think that's great news because they haven't played their best football. It's December and they're playing meaningful football, but they haven't played their best football. And they still, were the hottest team in the league. We'll see about now. We'll see now that record is back to 500 at 6-6 and heading into week 14. What can the Broncos do? How can they get back on the winning track? I think this plan was sound. They just need to perform better. Courtland Sutton early on has to catch those passes. As tough as they are, and as tough and amazing as Courtland Sutton has been all season, you just got to do more. You got to do more. Jerry Jeudy was better today. He's got to do more. Some tight end, for the love of God, somebody please step up. Greg Dulcich come back, like something. You need other weapons. McLaughlin, it's a tell when he's on the field, but I'd still like to see somebody else run the ball other than Russell Wilson and Javonte Williams. Like Javonte's worn down and he's going to get you 3-5 a carry and he's going to fight, and that's good, but he's not any sort of threat. What was his longest play today for Javonte Williams? 16 yards. Okay, that sounds about right. You know, that's respectable. But it's not 20 yards. It's not 40 yards. It's not anything like that. That's not his game. Never really was. Although in college, he would rip off some long ones once in a while, specifically because of his rush yards after contact, the ability to break tackles. So that's there. But you're dealing with an offense that has one arm tied behind their back and one leg in a potato sack trying to jump in a potato sack race. Like, I'm trying to figure out an analogy here, but I'm failing miserably. The Broncos failed miserably today, but like, you're not even hitting your stride. You don't have enough weapons. This is on George Payton. You could blame Sean Payton for the guys brought in this year because these are all Sean Payton decisions, but like, the fact that you don't have a tight end, the fact that you were relying on an injury-prone tight end. I still think Albert O could have done something here, and at least as a reserve role. I don't care if he can't block. Adam Troutman gives you nothing as a receiver. He can get down the cheek, the one cheek, that was fine. What'd he do today? Nothing. Got blown up in the end zone on a play, honestly, that he should have caught. If you're going to get mad at Lucas Kroll for not catching that pass in the end, get mad at Troutman for not catching that pass where Russ sidearms it, gets it under the defender, and he put it in a spot where he wanted Troutman to go. Troutman stopped because he saw the safety, I think safety or corner coming over, and so he stopped, and he got hit anyway. Like, dude, what are you doing? Go get that ball. Had he gotten the ball and gotten hit, he might have hung on to it, but he also might have gotten hit, and then they call a penalty, a personal foul, or whatever, because it was a vicious hit. But that's on Adam Troutman for not going to get the ball, not having my ball mentality. Lucas Kroll doesn't go get the ball, doesn't have the my ball mentality, doesn't position his body right. He got out-positioned by a smaller defender. You're Lucas Kroll, man. You've got that frame. Go use it. Greg Dulcich would know how to use that, but he's not available because he's hurt all the time. And the team made the decision to go with the guy that's hurt all the time that is now costing them today. So, you need more people to help. You have talent. You don't have enough talent. You have some Sean Payton guys. You don't have enough Sean Payton guys. And I'm not talking about Troutman or whatever. Like, you got to have played for the Saints in order to make it with the Broncos. No, you got to be good. And as we're seeing with Adam Troutman, it's like, he's not really good. And certainly not as a receiving threat, whatever, as a blocker. What you got Chris Manhertz for that. You need a receiving weapon. You need a receiving threat. And God bless Lucas Kroll, but that's not going to be him in a game-winning type of situation, throwing it up to let him go get it when it should have been Cortland Sutton. I don't know. I'm not like super pissed about this team, not because I was expecting a loss and not because it's okay to lose to Houston. It's not okay to lose any of these games. It's especially disgusting when you have a chance to win the game and you do not, because you're not ready at the line, because Kroll doesn't know where he's going and he doesn't position himself on that play. Like, that's what's frustrating is they played awful. They played bad football and they still could have won. So what does that mean? And what does that say? To me, again, it says the plan is right. The execution was not. The adjustments were correct. Defensively, they made adjustments. You did have to work through Surtain missing a little bit of time, right? Going out of this contest. You're worried about that. He comes back in. I thought that Mike Purcell had a really strong game. You definitely saw Cooper and Browning. It was a big Ohio State day today. Although when Noah Brown caught a pass, they didn't talk about Ohio State, but like, it was a big Ohio State day today. So Browning, Cooper, they did really good jobs. You saw Zach Allen make a play or two here or there. DJ Jones, in addition to Mike Purcell, was having a good day. Jonathan Harris had a good day, and very rarely, kind of an unsung hero, kind of a quiet guy in the locker room. Good to talk to. very sound in what he says, very kind in and giving of his time is Jonathan Harris, but he had a good game. I still don't believe Alex Singleton did. Whatever. I'm kind of over it. People that know football know what you get from Singleton. Guy's going to be a drag tackler. He's going to chase and he's going to drag guys down from the backside. You need a take on tackler. So the numbers will be deceiving with the Singleton. He's got a bunch of tackles. Yeah. Why is he always letting someone get by him, though? Why is he out of position? Like, okay, whatever. Josie Jewell. I wonder why Josie's not playing as much. Saw a little bit more Drew Sanders out there. Didn't do much of anything. Jaquan McMillan doing some good things. Again, not perfect. There were some plays where McMillan got burned, but you see coming through onto blitz. You see getting any sort of pressure, kind of playing feisty. You saw on the last Nico Collins touchdown and the time that was afforded to C.J. Stroud by Robert Woods for blocking on the edge. I think he got Baron Browning on that play, giving the time to Stroud to find Nico Collins on the second move. McMillan wasn't ready for it. It was touchdown Texans. So again, McMillan wasn't perfect today, but there were times when he made some really good plays. Surtain, again, burned today. I don't know how hurt he was. We'll see, if that is revealed to us going forward. Simmons is always good. Locke is making plays. And I think I pretty much mentioned everybody defensively. Nick Benito, maybe won't show up in the box score as much as you want, but I felt the duress that he was putting CJ Stroud under at times came through. So a good, maybe not great day from Nick Benito. So again, you can see how all this stuff adds up, but it's the multiple turnovers. It's the special teams gaffes. It's the letting Houston score touchdowns. Like that's where this bend but don't break defense did break. This offense did kind of put things together, but it was too late. The special teams was okay for the most part, but one or two errors here or there, tip, punt, whatever, like these errors, these mistakes add up and it leads to a Denver Broncos loss. So I'm not ate up over it. It's not like I'm going to throw anything. I don't have anything to throw. Gatorade Zero, maybe. I don't know. So I don't think any Broncos fan should be losing their mind. You also shouldn't be blaming the refs. The refs suck in the NFL. That's just the kind of the way it is. Are the refs on the take? I don't know. Seems very odd, especially with the NFL in bed with Vegas as much as they are. I'm not going to say they're on the take, but the way the refs are so terrible, like the refs aren't bad. They're terrible this year for every team in every game, not just the Broncos. But the fact the Broncos have Sean Payton as head coach means the league doesn't like him. And yeah, they're probably not going to get the calls all the time that you should. But this league is kind of looking bad and looking worse, I should say, because they're so in bed with Las Vegas and they continue to have the worst officiating in all of professional sports. And they don't seem to care about it. They're just, oh, that's the way we're doing it. That's the way we always do it. Well, it looks really bad, especially when you're so connected with Las Vegas now and the gambling. Like you better be on the up and up or else people are going to talk. I see, I don't know how many of you out there watch any sort of short videos, whether it's Reels or TikTok or whatever, but just go through your timeline one time and notice how many the NFL is rigged, videos that you see. You'll see quite a few. I don't believe it. I don't believe it can be too many players, but can a ref make a bad call because he's got some money on the line? Yeah, of course he can. So if you're a Broncos fan, you shouldn't be blaming Russell Wilson, but you should be acknowledging how his interceptions did not help the cause. If you're a Broncos fan, you shouldn't be blaming the refs. You should be understanding that the refs are terrible for every team, and they're especially terrible for Denver. But good teams overcome bad refs. You had bad refs today. You should have overcome it, and you almost did. I shouldn't necessarily be blaming Alex Singleton, but you also at the same time have to admit that he's out of position a lot. I don't care about the tackle numbers. If you're always drag tackling, the player's already by you, and I got him down, and the play was by you anyway. Like, you should be a take-on guy. He's not really a take-on guy. Like, don't be blaming Pat Surtain. Again, he was hurt. And even if he wasn't hurt, let's say Surtain was never hurt. Surtain had this type of day against Nico Collins, 191 yards. I would just say, that happens. That sucks. I still believe in Pat Surtain. When Terrell Owens got after Champ in the game against the Eagles, whatever year that was, it didn't mean Champ Bailey sucked. It just meant T.O.'s pretty good, and once in a while, Champ's going to have those type of days. Chad Johnson or Ocho Cinco or whatever the hell he was calling himself at the time, the belligerent receiver for the Bengals with the Hall of Fame jacket that was made up. When he torched Champ Bailey, it wasn't because Champ sucked or whatever. It just, no, had one of those days. So Surtain was banged up, but even if he wasn't, it might have been just one of those days against a really well-designed Bobby Slowick team on that offense with a really good quarterback. And Nico Collins, again, he's like Cortland Sutton, except he's faster and a little bit better. So what did we learn today? We learned you don't have time to fool around. You do not have time to mess around if you're the Denver Broncos. You don't have time to put yourself in a hole and then climb back up from it. You're not going to be built that way. You're not going to win that way. And they did not win. Now, you should have known this already. So when I say that, I'm not saying it like, what a revelation, guys. They're not built to come back. No, they're not built to come back. And we already knew that. We should have known that. They're not the type of team that can come back from any sort of deficit that especially they create themselves. So down by 13, Broncos aren't going to win. Sounds about right. They're not a high-powered unit. They're an efficient unit that can run the ball, can play great defense for the most part, and then set up some play action opportunities. But when they do, Russell Wilson either needs to see the wide open Jerry Jeudy. He didn't see him. Or Cortland Sutton needs to hang on to those early passes. And again, Court always does something amazing. He did something amazing in this game as well. Continuing on with that once a game, Cortland Sutton's going to do something, oh my God, and he's going to catch those passes. He did that today, but he also had those two early plays where he didn't connect with Russ. And they came out firing. They came out slinging on offense, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't good enough. And that sucks because you don't have the opportunity. You don't have the opportunity all the time to make those type of plays. And then the fact you didn't convert a third down at all, not one single third down was converted today for the Denver Broncos. That tells you all you need to know. 3 picks and 0 for 11 on third down. Done. The Broncos lost. So what did you learn? You learned the Texans are pretty good. You learned the Broncos have some grit. But damn it, you also learned you can't shoot yourself in the foot. You can't go forward expecting to push for the postseason when all you do is set yourself up to have a harder job. The NFL is already tough. Life's already tough. What's the old saying? Like, life's tough. It's really tough if you're dumb. Well, football's tough, and it's really tough if you make dumb plays. It's really tough if you put yourself in a hole. If you're already up against Houston Texans team that's pretty good. But if you put yourself in a position where you're down by 13, this team isn't going to fight back from that. They did, and they almost did it, which would have been remarkable. But close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and that's it. So close for the Broncos doesn't count. It goes down as an L. The Broncos now back at 500 with a 6-6 record. The Houston Texans are, well, what the Broncos should be, 7-5. Chat room, it's your time to chime in. What have you been thinking? I won't be able to get to all the comments, but I will read some of the things. Russ sucks. Okay, well, Russ didn't have a great day. I would say Russ is tough. I would say Russ can't win through the air as much as you want him to. But I wouldn't say that Russ sucks. I would say Russ is an older quarterback that you have to limit things for, and you cannot fall behind or else he cannot come back from that. That doesn't mean he sucks. That just means that. Ken talking about, well, the Broncos converted many third downs. I'll go to the box score again just to make sure, because in the fourth quarter they were 0 for 8 on third downs. You might have been thinking of the fourth downs, Ken. Third down efficiency 0 for 11. Fourth down efficiency 3 for 3. So unless the box score is wrong, which it isn't, yeah, I don't know where Ken's getting that from. But anyway, Brad D. Cease gives the truth. We hit like. Well, thank you for that. This one's a tough one. Wes with the ultimate here. Yes. Is Peyton's offense limited by Russ? Yes. It doesn't mean Russ sucks. It means Russ can't do that. I'm reminded of the old Meatloaf song. I would do anything for love, but I can't do that. Russ would do anything for a win, but he can't do that. Like, that's exactly. Peyton is limited by Russ. It doesn't mean you can't win with Russ. They almost won this game with that performance. They almost won this game. Lucas Kroll plays that ball a little bit better. Adam Troutman actually goes for the ball. Like, the Broncos win this game. So are they limited by Russell Wilson? Yes. Doesn't mean Russ sucks. Just means he's not great. It means that you have to be somewhat reserved with what you do with Russell Wilson. And that's, I think Maria sums it up best here. He had a chance. And that's the thing. That's where I'll emphasize the positive, where it's like, it's you played terrible and you still almost won. What does that mean? Play a little less terrible and win. And honestly, if we go back to the Cleveland game, if we go to the Minnesota game, and pretty much all this entire win streak, the Broncos have not been playing perfect football. They haven't peaked. They haven't performed at their best. They've kind of stumbled around and they found a way to win. Today, they stumbled around and stumbled too much, put themselves in a hole, and then end up like this. So there you go. Nick asks, is there still hope for playoff position? Yeah, about 25%. The numbers may be a little bit different, depending on what you're listening to, but just say 25% chance of making the postseason. They're still in it. And that's it. And then why doesn't Peyton play Stidham? Because Stidham's worse than Russell Wilson. That's to Frank. Frank's a good Broncos fan, and I don't want to be mean, but Jarrett Stidham is a backup. Russell Wilson is a starter, and there's a huge difference. Like, there are moments when Russell Wilson can be special. There are moments, but he can't be special all the time, and he can't lead you back from a deficit like they put themselves in. Russell Wilson, in certain moments, can be special. If he connects with Kroll on that play, are we talking about, is anyone tweeting Russ sucks? No. Now, you should ask, as Wes did earlier, like, is the Peyton offense limited by Russell Wilson? Yes. Doesn't mean Russ sucks. It just means the offense is limited because he can only do so many things. He can't do everything, which is just kind of the way he's always been, except he was a little bit more athletic when he was younger. So now, Cooper missing this fumble hurt, not from Zay. I hear you. Cooper still had a really good game. And he didn't really try to scoop and score, because sometimes you'll see defenders where they reach down and they're thinking about running before they can secure the football. He just kind of awkwardly went for it, and then it's an odd shaped football, egg ball, whatever you want to call it. It was it was a play that you wish you could have had. Big Hurt says Stidham was drafted by New England, so he must be crap. Stidham is a backup. I don't know. Ken, please check the box score. Converted at least 7/3. Take it to the bank. Okay. Again, I'm not exactly sure what Ken is talking about. But anyway. So bad. Matthew says the team is so bad. Matthew, I will politely disagree. They don't have all the pieces in place, but they're not a bad team. That's why early, when they lost to the Raiders and the Commanders, it's like they're not this bad. When they were 1-5, they weren't this bad. 500 team, okay, so they finished with 8-9 wins, maybe 10 wins, okay. But because 12-5 is no longer possible, 11-6 is, though. And if I look at the rest of the schedule, there's no team on the schedule that they can't beat. So to say this team is bad, no matter how you justify it, I'm actually saying this team is okay. I'm not saying that they're great, but they're better than they've started with this record. And I think it's better. It'll be better the more playmakers they can get. They don't have any playmakers. Like I said, this is like a 3-person offense. It's pretty bad. It's like a 3-person offense. You need multiple weapons. So, and Matthew says, true, I'm just mad. It's okay. Matthew. I'm more disappointed, certainly not mad. But I'm disappointed because opportunity doesn't come often in this league. It's really tough to win in the NFL, and the Broncos were there to win against a good Texans team. on the road. Would have been a nice feather in their cap, would have continued building that confidence. But I think what we learned is they're not good enough to put themselves in that type of hole. Dion says, everybody wants a Pat Mahomes. Wilson will never be good enough for some fans. And that's the thing. Like, Russell Wilson wants to win. Russell Wilson is tough. Russell Wilson has heart. Russell Wilson is really limited in what you could do with him, but you can still go to the playoffs. You can make some noise. You even can win a Super Bowl with a quarterback like that, but everything else has to be a lot tighter if that's the situation. Like, it can't be you're like this and then you make a Super Bowl run. You can make the playoffs still. You can make that sort of run. And if you get to the dance, pretty much anything can happen. But you look at this game and this season for the Broncos, it's like you're held back by Russell Wilson at the end of the day. Playoffs, that's right. I like this one from Cody, where the Tannehill Titans at best. That's not bad. Not now, certainly, but there was a time only a couple of years ago where the Tannehill Titans were among the AFC's best for just a window. But that was also with the Derrick Henry that was like King Henry. Javonte Williams is not even back to being Javonte, let alone Derrick Henry. So when he gets back to being Javonte, then I'd feel better about calling that. But you know, that's where that's at. So run the ball, play great defense, and with a limited quarterback, that's what you have to do. And that's what the Broncos will do going forward. And rest of the chat room, just looking through, seeing what everyone else is saying. Blue-White Scorpio. CIA controls the box score. Never trust it. Can't trust it. Isn't that what Public Enemy always said? There you go. Josh, getting the production from Kush that we are paying for. Kush was in a position where it's like, okay, there's a few guys. You look at Lloyd Cushenberry. Are you going to keep him after this year? That's debatable. He's played better. And again, I'll watch the coach's tape and see what his problems were today. McGlinchey was the larger problem for me today. And that was just completely obvious with Will Anderson. Kush, I'll have to go back and watch closer. He's had some rough parts. He started out this season really rough. And then during the win streak, like, Cushenberry was playing really good football. And then today, I'm not sure. I'll have to watch and see, where that's at. How do I see the rest of the season going? 11-6. 11-6 because, okay, 12-5 isn't going to happen anymore, but 11-6 can still happen because, again, there's no one on the schedule they can't beat. There's no one on the schedule that you look at and be like, oh, now the Detroit game will be like this one. That one's going to be a test. The Chargers, because of Justin Herbert, are always dangerous because of Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. If he's healthy, he's not healthy, but like, you have dangerous assets there. But you also have Brandon Staley, who has no idea. You can stop asking me those questions. Like, no idea. Brandon Staley doesn't have any idea what he's doing. You can't ever be the team to come back and you have Russell Wilson. Calico says Steelers are frauds. Sorry, Cecil. You don't need to apologize, baby. It's okay. When people are like, you're a Steelers fan, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really a fan of anybody now. And the Steelers, of course, are frauds because Kenny Pickett can't stay healthy and Mitchell Trubisky sucks and Matt Canada was a terrible OC. And even if Kenny Pickett did stay healthy, the best Kenny Pickett is Derek Carr. That's if he hits his potential. He's Derek Carr. So you don't need to apologize to me. That doesn't impact me whatsoever. And again, as an analyst, I put my fan days behind me. It's why I enjoy basketball, because I get to be a basketball fan. Because being a fan, you can be crazy, right? You can be irrational when you're a fan. When you're an analyst, I don't look at the Steelers and just see, black and gold glasses. I look at a team like the Steelers and be like, the Broncos are better than them. The Broncos should go to the playoffs. The Steelers don't need to go. Certainly enjoy Mike Tomlin, of course, for everything that Mike Tomlin is, but like, nah, don't get it twisted. I'm not sitting here with a terrible towel in my pocket being like, come on. Like, no, I want to watch ball. I want to seek the truth and I want to speak the truth. That's for sure. Oh boy. Alex Singleton makes DJ Wilson look like a disciplined position focused defender. There we go. Yeah, and the Cardinals are helping there. Yeah, Cardinals getting them today. Refs are horrible in college too. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Um there you go. So chat room, appreciate you all for showing up. And appreciate you all for joining it on board. Let's see. Fred says slightly above average. There you go. That's why I say at best. Minshew was better today, but they have the same floor and ceiling. Slightly above average. I think that's a reasonable way to look at this Broncos team. They're not great. They're not terrible. They're slightly above average. And when you're slightly above average, games like this, one, you're going to have them. Two, you better win them because they're going to be tight. And it goes back to, this team's going to play tight games, and you hope with the better coaching that they will win those tight games. Today, they did not. Okay, there's a should have tanked from Ken. Yeah. Should have traded everyone. Okay. Yeah, Nate, Jerry Jeudy was wide open. Hey, I can get mad at Jerry Jeudy for a lot, but when he's wide open like that and Russ doesn't see him, I ain't mad at Jerry. I'm upset at Russ that Russ doesn't see that. Being no man's land for the draft. Yeah, maybe. Once you started winning, that's the position you put yourself in. Big Hurt season finishing 8-9. Okay. I still want to see how the rest of this plays out. I still, because if they're 8-9, that means they're winning 2 of these next games. And that's it. I don't see them winning only 2 of their next games. I see them winning a majority of their next games, maybe even 4 out of the 5 next games. But you got to get it done. And you certainly can't make excuses, and you can't come up short like you did today. There you go. There you go. That was a second late. Yeah. The last pass, when Russ was under pressure and they snapped it and Kroll didn't know what he was doing, like, it was tough, man. That was a tough play. Wish it would have been to Sutton. Dion, love you, Cease. Always telling the truth. I appreciate that, man. Like, it's interesting because the truth seems belligerent to those that don't believe in it. But that's the thing. Like, for me, has Shaquille Leonard signed anywhere yet? Seriously, like, I know today's game day, and I think as of yesterday, hadn't signed anywhere. Although, the Eagles and the Cowboys wanted him. Can you just go get Shaquille Leonard? Zach Ertz. People are bringing up Zach Ertz in the chat room. Like, yeah, you know who would have caught that? Zach Ertz. Nothing against Lucas Kroll. I like Lucas Kroll, but he's an inexperienced player. You throw that up for Zach Ertz is going to get it because he's better than Adam Troutman. He's old, but he's healthier than Greg Dulcich because Greg Dulcich is never healthy. So it's like, yeah, you have these moves, George Payton. I'm going to be in on every deal. Well, are you? Because you should have Shaquille Leonard. You're a contender. You should have Shaquille Leonard here. You should have Zach Ertz here. You should look for more running back help. Off the top of my head, I'd have to look to see who's out there. It's not like Leonard Fournette's out there anymore, but like you should have been in on a Leonard Fournette because you can't go forward with Samaje being as banged up as he is. You definitely don't trust P. Ryan for whatever reason. And McLaughlin's not as good as you need him to be. So, like, imagine had you gotten Leonard Fournette, Shaquille Leonard, and Zach Ertz. You're putting yourself in the best position to make a postseason run. If you don't get and Leonard Fournette, he's on the Bills practice squad, whatever. Shaquille Leonard hasn't made a decision, but you didn't even bring him in for a visit. Although Dallas and Philadelphia, 2 of the best teams in the league, want him. For all the fans out there that were like, you don't want Shaquille Leonard. Have you seen Shaquille Leonard? I chart plays for every team in the league. So, yes, I've seen Shaquille Leonard. I know he's not what he used to be, but he can stuff the run, something that this team has a problem with. But, like, and then Zach Ertz, again, have you seen Zach Ertz this year? Of course I've seen Zach Ertz this year. He's old, but he's a fine red zone target. What happened in that play? Red zone, Lucas Kroll. That's Zach Ertz. That might have been a touchdown. If that's Greg Dulcich, that's a touchdown. That's for damn sure. I think here's Fred. Blaming Kroll because Russ threw it right at the defender. Russ threw it. Russ was getting sacked as he threw it up and getting hit as he threw it up. Russ put it in a position where Kroll could have positioned his body. Kroll's got to attack that. He took like half a step back towards the ball. But Russ, you throw it up. If that's Cortland Sutton, let's say Kroll's on the outside and doesn't know what he's doing, and then Sutton's there in the middle. If that's Cortland Sutton, he goes and gets it. So am I blaming Lucas Kroll? I'd blame the protection before I blame Lucas Kroll. So give me a break because I'm not blaming Lucas Kroll. Again, the truth is Kroll didn't position his body. So either you can see that truth or you can say Russ threw it at the defender because Russ sucks. So and it's not about Kroll ripping it away. It's about Kroll positioning his body better. Like, please listen. Kroll needs to have positioned his body better. Russ could have made a better throw. Do you want me to blame Russ? You want me to say Russ sucks? There, Russ sucks, everybody. You're screwed. Come on, give me a break. Like, it's not about blaming Lucas Kroll, but that play to an inexperienced player like that, like, it's belligerent, I guess I should say. Anyway, got to get out of here. Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. And make sure to do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And we appreciate you. This one was a tough one, Broncos country. It was a tough one because you didn't play your best and you still could have won. And I wish they would have won, would have liked the streak to have continued. It hasn't. So I'm not going to cry and whine. I'm going to say, okay, what did you learn? Now let's move forward. What did they learn is they need more help on offense. That's it. And they can't keep making mistakes. You can't have multiple interceptions. You can't have personal foul penalties that basically give your opponent a chance at a touchdown, which they did score. You can't have special team gaps. You don't have to play perfect. The Broncos haven't played perfect, but you can't have these multiple mistakes, not get the turnovers that you were used to getting, and then expect to win in the National Football League. Check out denversports.com, the Denver Sports Daily. I'm riding Mile High Monday today. I'll have my 3 observations done today. But for now, got to run. Peace. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.